Well, hi, everybody. This is DearMamaSal, and we are live on a Sunday afternoon, which means it's time for us to talk about coping with stress. But today is Mother's Day. So I thought what we would do is have some fun memories, hopefully, but also some fun quotes about Mother's Day. And, I'm going to mix them in a bit. Some of them will be funny and some not so much. Um, I just want to say for those of you who might be new, welcome. Thank you for joining us or popping in and seeing it on the replay. We are a group of people who get together 3 times a week to help us all cope with life. And the most important thing is that we all understand we all go through stress in our lives. And so I'm very thankful to the regulars who pop in and discuss things with me so that we can give you some real life examples of what's going on. Hi there to Jeannie, who says, hi, Sal and Jody. Jody's also here. I'll talk to Jody in a second. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers and children, pets, and grandmothers too. How about that? Isn't that lovely? Yes, so a very happy Mother's Day as we go along. And hi there to Jody. For those of you who don't know, Jody is our admin, and she looks after me and does sort of instant research when we need something checked on. And I can never thank her enough for that. She's an amazing ability to do that. The first quote that I found that I thought was relevant to today was one that says, "Life didn't come with a manual, it came with a mother." The one thing that we all have in common is the fact that we all had a mother. Now, I am also aware that not everybody enjoyed their mother. I know that that's probably the minority. So just bear with me if you're one of those sad people who didn't actually enjoy the maternal nurturing or lacked that maternal nurturing, then just bear with us while we deal with those who did. And just, join us along for the ride anyway. Before we get on to Mother's Day stuff, just let you know it was Bernice's anniversary on the 6th. Jodie's little fluff ball called Taylor turned 5 yesterday. We have Manon's birthday on the 9th, and also Jeannie's daughter. And we have Beth and Charles's anniversary. It'll be 31 years, I believe, coming up on the 10th. Oh, well, that's far enough away, so we'll talk about that one later. So thoughts and prayers, please, for Beth. She's been going through some very serious health challenges, and we're waiting to hear the results of various tests that she had done. Uh, I always like to quote the guy I call the monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, who said, "Smile, breathe, and go slowly." So whatever your stress is this week, please smile, breathe, and go slowly. Just take it one step at a time wherever you can. And just a warning to you, those of you who might not know, to let you know that the thoughts you may hear are mine or the stuff that I've researched online. I am not a psychologist, doctor, anything like that. Uh, I do these broadcasts because I always said if I ever got a chance to do YouTube, I'd spend it trying to share what knowledge I had gained and the things I wish I had known earlier. And so, to all of you who join me in that and allow me to do that, thank you. And I must admit that I enjoy it as much as you do, if not more so. you know, because every week, as you can imagine, I just go through stuff again. I spend all week preparing stuff that I go, gosh, yes, it's time for me to remember that. And I wonder if any of you overcame some of your stress this week. And if so, let's hear about it at the front. Or if any of you are under stress this week, so that we can address that while we go along with the Mother's Day thing. Um, Dorothy from the Golden Girls had a line in one of the episodes, and it said, "It's not easy being a mother. If it was easy, fathers would do it." And I love that quote because I always say that about almost anything. It can't be that difficult if men could do it. So, um, I'm hoping that we have some, fun stories to tell about our mothers. And how many of you relate to this quote? Sooner or later, we all quote our mothers. And if that makes you chuckle, think about what is the quote that you remember. Now, it's funny, when I was writing this, I tried to think, what quote do I remember from my mom? And there were so many, right? I mean, certainly you all will agree with me. But the one, for some reason, that came into my mind was, don't go out with anybody who wears white socks. And I'd be on a date with somebody, first date with somebody, and I'd look down and see they were wearing white socks, and I go, oh gosh. So if any of you had any of those sort of things that ended up in your brain and you couldn't get rid of them, we're going to be hopefully discussing a few of those. Yeah. So that's it, really. What advice did your mom give you that you never forgot, even if you wanted to? And to me, it is just like there was. I mean, my table manners. I've got to say to you that was, not only did that stay with me, although I break nearly everything that she taught me, and spent a lot of money teaching me to be, a really well brought up young lady. Um, but it's like the people around me talk to her as well. You know what I mean? Anybody who's ever been in my life will do something where they know that their table manners are not right, and they'll go, "Excuse me." Oh, Jodi's saying absolutely true. I quote my mom all the time. When having troubles sleeping, she'd say, just lay down and rest your eyes. The rest will follow. Of course, I can hear my mother, Jodi, saying, hens lay, people lie. So, you understand, grammar was very important to my mom as well. Jodi's saying, my favorite was, don't let anyone ever take your dreams away. What a wonderful thing to quote. All right, so Jeannie's saying, I'm never late, but tidy. We were 20 minutes late to a restaurant over an hour away. Stress, but it ended fine. Oh, must be not about your mother, sorry. Okay, so I'm glad that you got there to whatever it was, the restaurant that you wanted to get to. So I love that quote, Jodi. Never let anyone take your dreams away. And I would ask you to think about that. What dream did somebody take away? Oh, yeah. All right. So Jeannie's saying that was her stress. With apologies, Jeannie, sometimes the delay, I'm sort of past it by the time I read something. So thank you for reminding me. Yeah. So that would be stressful for you. I'm also a time freak. And when people say to me, I'd like you, be here by 5:30, I go, do you mean 5:30? Because if you tell me 5:30, I will be knocking on your door at 5:30. So if you actually mean 5:30, thinking I'm going to be there by 8, make sure you clarify that. And I'm amazed how many people actually say to me, get here by 5. Oh, it's you, Sal. No, don't worry. Don't get here until about 6:30. I go, okay. So there's incredible truisms that parents came about. Mothers, I would say that this is really an important one. Jeannie, did your mother always teach you that to be on time was respectful? And because I know that not only did my mother teach me that, but the nuns as well. I grew up in a high Anglican convent, and you know the nuns were very strict about time, and it was a boarding school. Everything was about time, and it's so funny because I noticed that people say to me, "Oh, I'm just socially late," and I went, "It's still late." And I will say to people coming for dinner, I when I say that, it's this time, I mean this time, right? So if you want to eat, when we eat, we will be sitting down to eat at this time. What time you arrive is up to you. But no, I'm probably not going to hold everybody else up because you choose to be late. I don't know about you, but I find that incredibly rude. And I think you've heard me tell the story where I was at one Christmas thing where literally we waited 3 hours for one person who was late. All right. Um, and I just, I literally had the meal and then had to leave immediately. Excuse me, everybody. Had to leave immediately afterwards. And they said, "Oh, what are you going so soon?" I said, "Well, I would have been staying 3 hours later, but we unfortunately we didn't start eating until much later, so now I need to get home." And they were very upset with me, and I just thought, well, I didn't start this. You chose to hold the meal. I don't think we started eating. It was we were meant to be eating at 6, and I don't think we started eating until 9 or something. And it was just like, anyway, but so be it. I personally won't do that. Jeannie's saying when I entertain, I give latecomers about 15 minutes and then I start my meal. You and I used to do a lot of seminars. I used to give a lot of seminars, and I used to say, it'll start at 9 o'clock, and I would start at 9. I think I'd give them 5 minutes and then I'd start, and then people would be coming in, and they'd look at me and say, "You've started already? Gosh, I'm only 5 minutes late." I said, the magic word is the last one, and let me carry on because I don't want to be rude to the people who were kind enough to be on time. It's a very if you were taught that as a child, um, then it doesn't leave you, does it? And I find that that's some of these truisms. All right, I was taught that being late is being rude. And I unfortunately married somebody who thought being an hour late was socially acceptable because he thought he was a somebody, you know, and you can imagine how difficult that was for me. It was just like being an hour late to me was incredibly rude. And needless to say, we didn't stay married very long. This is from Irma Bombeck, and I always love quoting this on Mother's Day because her quotes about Mother's Day always crack me up. And she said, "When my kids become wild and unruly, I use a nice, safe playpen. And when they're finished, I clear them out." How many of you can remember days, those of you who had children, can remember days where really you had to go into a room and close the door? Probably the washroom. Right. And so, to me, it is really a fun memory. All right. Yeah, Jeannie's saying her aunt taught her that, she told her she could always rely on her to be on time. Yes. And I can remember one person, I've told this story before, but I can remember one person where I was going to a restaurant with them. And it got to 5 minutes to the time I had said I would be there. Like, say the lunch was at 5 o'clock, lunchtime, 12 o'clock. And at 5 to 12, I wasn't there. The person that knew me well said, "You can probably take that place setting away because if Sal isn't here 10 minutes early, it means something quite serious has happened." She's had an accident or something quite serious has happened. Sal is never late, and it's funny. And you can imagine there are times when doing a broadcast, if you know me well, you will understand this better. If something happens where I can't get on and literally press the button when my clock says it's the right time, I freak out. But, I know that sometimes it's beyond my control. I got internet problems or something. So tell me, did any of your mothers tell you a lie? When you were growing up, they told you a lie, but it took you until you grew up to realize that it was a lie. Do any of you know what I am talking about? I can remember one. And I'm embarrassed about this one because it took me the longest time to realize it was a lie. And that was my mom, for some reason, told me at one time that I was born, uh, that that I was born by cesarean because she was caught in she was snowed in, um, and then they had to come and rescue her. And then my father had to choose between myself or her. It was quite a long, difficult story. And, I never ever questioned it for some reason until one day I woke up and I thought, wait a minute, I was born in Holland and my birthday is at the end of August. Well, nearly the end, 30th. Um, there was no way there could have been snowed in by a snowstorm on the 30th of August in Holland. And, I was quite angry when I realized, and then I couldn't work out whether the other bits about it were true as well. But, I never did ask, I must admit. All right, so Jeannie's saying, when kindergarten children asked how old I was. Oh, that's something you told yourself. You used to tell them you were 100 years? Why would you tell them that lie? That's interesting. All right, but we do, don't we? We lie to children all the time. Ah, that's so sad. So anyway, I wonder if your mum ever told you a lie and it took you a while to realize that it was a lie. um, when I thought about it, there were quite a few. It wasn't one. It was quite a few that she told. And I sort of, have forgiven her since, but and she's long gone. But it's just like amazing when I realized it, and I thought, how could you tell me that? And I took it in hook, line, and sinker. I had no reason to disbelieve, and I think it's part of the reason why I have problem with trust issues sometimes because I go, so many people have lied to me. Why would you trust anybody? Until they've proven to be trustworthy. Even my mother lied to me regularly. Susan Savannah said, if your kids are giving you a headache, follow the directions on the aspirin bottle, especially the part that says keep away from children. So now then, let me ask you the next question. For those of you who can remember, did your mum, I'm thinking that we've got people of all different ages probably listening in, either on the feed or listening in the background, or maybe listening on the replay. So my question would be, some of you are sort of older and some of you not so much. And I wonder whether you had a mother who wished she could have done something but ended up being a mother instead. All right, that's the next question. And while some of you are thinking about that, I'm going to read what Jody had here. Jody's saying, when I was 9, I needed a simple procedure to remove a sty from my eye. I was terrified. My parents told me we were just going to the hospital for the doctor to check on my eyes. Lie. Wow. Jody, how did you feel about that? Yeah, I must admit, I've been mother to quite a few young people, as you know. And I can remember telling a lie to Yvonne's son, Cody. And I really regretted it afterwards. But he did manage to stand on a rusty nail and I needed to take him in. His mom was away and I needed to take him in for a tetanus shot. And he said to me, will it hurt? And I said, no, it's just a regular shot. And and afterwards I apologized to him. I said, I don't know how to lie about or how to tell you that it's going to hurt as much as I knew it would because I've had one or two. And I said, I know you probably are very angry with me, but payback is, will be coming to you when when you have your own children. And I actually will have to find out from him whether he's had the same problem. So what career do you think your mom would have liked to have done, but she ended up being a mom? Now, obviously, a lot of people have got working mums. But even so, a lot of them might have given up what their dream was in order to be more available as a mom. And I can remember my mom actually wanted to be a physical education teacher. I don't know what you call that here. Fitness instructor, I guess it's called today, but it's more than that. She really wanted to be teaching people how to play tennis and how to play, all those sort of games that we used to play at school. And um, the funny thing was, she was of an age where what women wanted to do was irrelevant, and they needed to get through school, get married, and have children. That was and I think in the States you're going back to that, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and it's just like I always felt so sorry for her because she had that dream to be that active, and then we came along, and she ended up being a mom. It is said that once you are a mom, you're always a mom. It's like riding a bike. You never forget. Now, I've got to tell you something, that even though I wasn't technically ever a mum, that I inherited, or was adopted by various young people. And so I became a de facto mum to quite a few people. And try as I might, every now and then I have to stop myself from, I'm somebody that people always call when they've got a problem and they need to debrief something and work through something. So giving input to people is part of who I am. And so there are times when I give out a lot of options and they go, yeah, but mom, what do you think I should do? I'm going, I wish I knew. It's not my life, it's yours. And I think that's one of the most difficult things as a mom. Would you agree that as your children grow up, is not to give them advice? It's to give them options, but not advice. And in fact, I would say that is true for people in general. All right. None of us really like being told what to do. But what happens is we run out of options. And the other thing is, if you have somebody says, yes, but what do you think I should do? You understand they don't want to hold themselves accountable for the decision. Right? And so what I will say to them is, it is something I cannot tell you. I can tell you my experience of doing it this way and my experience of doing it this way, but I cannot tell you what to do. 9 times out of 10, it has to do with relationships. And I'm going, are you sure you're asking the right person? I mean, however, what I've learned since I was married, um, it's because they do forget that I'm divorced twice. So obviously that I'm not the best person, but I can look back in retrospect and think what I could have done, should have done, and might have done. And I still love them for asking for my input. So what I try to say is, look, this is what I did, and I know that was totally wrong. And this is what I believe you're meant to do, which I could never do. It's up to you what you do. And so for those of you who've been mothers, what was the most challenging question that your children ever asked you, that you needed to answer? All right, as a mom, which ones? Jody's saying real life practical experience is invaluable. Yes, and that's, I try and do it from both sides. I go, this is my experience, but this is what I've subsequently learned. And this is why what I did didn't work. And, I like to explain things. It's not that It's not that what I did was wrong. It's the way that I did it that was wrong. All right. All right. So I got some famous mum type quotes, which I hope will give you a smile. How many of you heard time and time again, what part of no don't you understand? Or that famous one, I don't care who started it. We learned the blame game very early on, don't we? Or how about the wait until your father gets home? Now, with me, because I was always a bit of an actress, um, I heard this one or a variation of it quite a bit, which was, your face is going to freeze like that. My mum's version of that was, the wind's going to change and then your face will freeze like that. Because, I could pout really well as a kid. I probably still do. The famous quote that was really brought to everybody's attention again when Bill Gates gave a commencement speech, which was, no one said life was fair. And I funny enough, talking about him, I was watching an interview that he did today, and in that they were talking about all the successes he'd had, and they were talking about his new book and all sorts of things. And, just with success over success over success, and it ended with, and then you got divorced. And I thought, isn't that sad that for all the brilliant philanthropy and everything else that Bill Gates has got, his legacy is, but then you ended up divorced. And he was, I really love the way he's handling it, because he just said, yes, I made some pretty serious mistakes and I'm paying the price. I thought that was pretty adult of him. How many of you heard, go to your room? How many of you use that? That's probably one of the things that you sounded like, go to your room, when you can't cope anymore. and the extended one, which was, go to your room without dinner. Yeah, I don't know how many times I had that one. I used to get sent to the kitchen. I lived in a mini Downton Abbey type situation, and I don't know why I had such problem, but I did. I was regularly eating my meals with the staff in the house. We had staff in the house, and I was regularly sent to eat my meal with them, because apparently what I was doing wasn't suitable for the dining room. Probably was flicking peas or something like that. But the punishment was, I would be sent to the kitchen to go eat with the staff, and they loved me to bits. Well, they got to know me really well, didn't they? But they really did. They loved me to bits. Yeah, Jodie's saying, wait until your father gets home was heard regularly in my childhood. Yeah. And how about, beds are for sleeping, not for jumping? I mean, if they give you a trampoline to sleep on, why wouldn't you be allowed to use it? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. And which was the vegetable that your mother really thought you should enjoy and you never did? Mine was spinach, and I still have to tell you, I'll use it for decoration, and I will use it sometimes cooked into something, but really, it's not my favorite thing. Oh, lima beans. Do they call it lima here in North America, or lima? Yeah, I don't like them either for the same reason. Oh, that's interesting. Are they called lima beans, Jodie? Yes or no? If you say no, I'll know it's the other. Lime. Okay, like the fruit. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't, something, I didn't like them either. And why did we have them? You don't hear of them very often now. I wonder, if we could have a chance to have a really serious conversation with our parents, and unfortunately a lot of us can't, it'll be very interesting, I think, to, find out what were the biggest problems for them. Uh, I know the most stunning thing for me in all my growing up, and I guess it was the day that I thought I must be an adult now, was when I must have been 25, and I was playing a game of something with my mother, and she swore. And I am not joking. I had never in a lifetime, I mean, she swore big time, not little one, big one, short one. I literally didn't know what to do with myself. I laughed until I cried and thought, I don't believe that. It was just like, I was, and the English have an expression which is gobsmacked, because I literally went, and then I said, did you say what I think you just said? And she said, yes. I said, I'm 25 years old. I've never heard you swear. And she said, which goes to show how well controlled I've been. Oh, interesting. Jody's saying, I'd run out of the back door to my neighbor's house when my mother cooked liver and onions. Yes, that's another thing that we used to have a lot of in our day. All right. Liver and onions. How many of you? And I don't think I've had liver and onions in 50 years or more. More. Liver and onions, yeah. And steak and kidney pie comes to mind. When did you last have steak and kidney pie? Hmm. Oh, the memories, yes. I mean, to me, it's just like, really. I think some of these memories, we need to hold on to because they're magical, right? I love this. It said, my mom is a genius, and not just because she thinks I'm one. All right. How about this? Where was her favorite holiday spot? And you probably know what yours was, but what was your mom's favorite place to go on vacation for her? Not for you guys, but for her. And did she go on her own? Did she get away from you and enjoy a holiday on her own? In which case, where did she like to go? Now, as you know, I was at boarding school, so they packed me off, for most of the year, um, which was her holiday was to be without children, um, which is what I think a whole lot of people in those days did, right? They literally packed their children off to school, and so they could have time without children, and they let the school um, educate and bring up the children for most of the time. Oh, Jody's saying her mum's favorite place was a cabin by a lake. We rented it for a week and it was magical. All right. And she loved it as much as you did? All right. So think about that. I know my mother's favorite place for many years was she used to pack us off to school. And then she and my father would go off to the Canary Islands, which is sort of just off Africa, the northern part of Africa. And they went there every year, and they absolutely loved it. Jeannie's saying, my parents never went on vacation, but they did visit relatives, just not overnight. Wow, Jeannie, you lived a whole lifetime and they never went on vacation? That is amazing. Can I ask you, was that for a reason? Because you ran a farm or something? What? And if you don't want to answer, that's totally great. Um, but that's fascinating. I find that amazing. I've never heard that, Jeannie. And it's interesting, Jodie's saying she loved it at the cabin. She got to relax. But the children went with her, Jodie. Because, my memory is when I got married, I inherited 3 kids. And then we used to go on vacation. And vacation was taking everybody else's kids on vacation with us. Because waifs and strays were not something I liked, and I'd end up camping with maybe 6 or 8 children in places that didn't have running water. I mean, it was never relaxing for me, I must say, but the kids loved it. And all day, we were in the east coast of Africa, and all day long I'd sit on the beach going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, 6. All I did all day long was count heads, had I got them there. Judy's saying, my mother loved being home. For an anniversary, my parents went for a weekend to New York City, the only vacation I know of. I think that is absolutely incredible. So it was always a staycation for them. And, isn't that lovely that they could live a whole lifetime and be perfectly happy with it? And I wonder what they thought of New York City. That is fascinating, Jeannie. And, what have you taken away from that upbringing? Are you and, did you and York during your earlier marriage years, did you go on vacation or did you not? Was that something that you carried forward, I wonder? I like this quote that I found, and it said, the quickest way for a parent to get a child's attention is to sit down and relax. Mom! Yeah. I don't know about you, but my mom used to have a time in the afternoon where we were not allowed to disturb her. She supposedly went to bed and probably did, exhausted. But she would close that bedroom door at 2 o'clock or to about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we were not allowed to disturb her again before I think about 5. When it was just like that if the house was burning, we would be allowed to, or somebody, had a major injury, yeah. But other than that, no. All right, Jeannie's saying this is York and Jeannie now. We love vacations. We went to Canadian Rockies frequently. We went to Cape Breton, and last big vacation was taking York to Portugal. So you didn't carry on that, and the reason I ask that is sometimes that is a habit that carries on for a generation. So you made up for it in your lifetime. Well done. I've never heard that, Jeannie. I mean, you constantly fascinate me, but that is just like, I have never heard of a family that never went on vacation. Now, I cannot remember going on vacation with my parents very much. They did take me when I was 21. They took me to parts of Europe when I was 21, but with them. And I think the only reason I went with them was I was, legal drinking age, if you know what I mean. It was that was my 21st birthday present, was to go on a trip up the Rhine. Yeah, and amazing. And Oktoberfest and all those sort of things. Amazing memories. All right. A mother's sacrifice isn't giving birth. It's 9 months without wine. Now, I don't know about you, but I seem to remember in my day, and I know I'm old and cranky, but in my day, I am pretty convinced that my mother never gave up drinking anything while she was pregnant. just wasn't done in those days, was it? Jeannie's saying, I loved visiting places. Switzerland, yeah, I love, Switzerland is still, to my mind, the cleanest country I ever visited. I don't know if it still is. She said she lived in Israel for 6 months. Yes, I'm aware of that. Portugal twice. We met our grandchildren for a month in Manchester, England. Yeah, you've been there and done that. That's wonderful. So you're a traveling mum. And I love it when I hear of parents that are traveling to go see their children around the world, and I'm going, yeah, I wonder if my mom would have done that. I like to think so. Not convinced, mind you, but I like to think so. Um, what about her hobbies? What hobbies did your mom have? I was thinking about my mom, and the first thing that came to my mind was dressmaking. Because she was forever making some sort of dress for me to wear. And she wasn't necessarily very good at it. Wasn't bad, but wasn't necessarily very good at it. So it used to be quite a painful process. But I remember that. I also remember that she was really big into jigsaw puzzles. That was her relaxation. And we had a big mahogany dining room table, that sat about 12 people. And, I always remember her sitting there doing 1,000-bit jigsaw puzzles. And as children, we were allowed to come in and do them as well with her, but we weren't allowed to talk a lot because it was like that was her relaxation time. Oh, Jeannie's saying my mum crocheted and cooked. Yeah, mine knitted a lot. Yeah, we had a lot of home knitted sweaters. I remember that. Jody's saying my mum was a talented seamstress. She made beautiful clothes for me and always a matching outfit for my Barbie doll. Oh, thank you for that smile today, Sal. It's my pleasure. And she also loved embroidery. Yeah, mine, as I said, I remember dressmaking. I remember jigsaw puzzles a lot. Definitely, she enjoyed art later on in life, and she enjoyed golf later on. She wasn't really very active for somebody that wanted to be in the physical education business. She really wasn't very active for her life. And hmm, something else that I can't remember. It'll probably come to me in a minute. Now, I don't know if this makes sense to you, but maybe it does. If you think of your mum, what is the one outfit that really you liked the best and you still remember to this day? What was the outfit that she wore that you loved enough to still remember it to this day? And I wonder whether you have one because I was thinking about that and I could see it immediately. My mom had a blue and white dress in the days when they were sort of short shirtwaisters and they sort of flared out a bit. And there was this deep blue and white dress that she wore. And it had white cuffs and a white collar on it. And she had the matching blue open-toed shoes. I can remember it to this day. And she'd be wearing her pearls, and I always, and the hat, because we all wore hats in those days. I remember that outfit as clear as day. And the funny thing is, I don't know about you guys, but the funny thing is, I can remember as an adult buying almost the same dress. An updated version of it, but I remember buying a dress and loving it. That was deep blue with a white collar and white cuffs, so elegant. I just, it's funny, isn't it? And hers was, I seem to, she had two that were quite similar. One was polka dots because those were popular back in the 50s, I think. And then and there another one that was black and white striped. And I can remember having a black and white striped dress as well. Isn't that funny? I must have liked it a lot. And funny enough, I remember the open-toed shoes, even though I can remember with my grandmother having winkle picker shoes, the very, very pointed ones. Um, we used to call them winkle pickers. I don't know what it's like. They were like stilettos that we ended up growing up with that ruined our feet. I remember that very well. I thought this was a really cute quote. It said, "Only Mum knows which way to slice a sandwich so that the flavor doesn't leak out." What was your favorite meal that your mum cooked you? Right, when she wanted to really please you, what was the meal that she cooked? And strangely enough, my memory says crepes. And the reason I say crepes was, how long it takes to make a crepe. And she had, by the time she remarried, we had a blended family of 5 children. Can you imagine trying to make crepes for 5 children? That were, sort of roundabout teenage years or getting close to it, where you got hollow legs and you can never fill them. I don't know how she ever produced pancakes fast enough. They crepes. Pancakes are something different in North America. But, I just always remember that was a labor of love. And she made real mac and cheese, not out of a box, real mac and cheese. I remember that really well. Trifle. Yeah, I grew up eating trifle, where you had a base of sponge cake and then jello over the top of that with fruit in it sometimes, and then a layer of English custard and then whipped cream on top of that. I mean, just like, really. Jodie's saying she remembers mac and cheese as well. And she made a casserole with ham and cheese and spiral noodles. I loved that. Yeah, that comfort food. And my mum could make the best roast beef and Yorkshire pudding, still to this day, and roast potatoes, all the trimmings. I think the old-fashioned, roast dinner of any sort, my mother was an expert at. And she had, I can't remember the name now. It was Mrs. Something or Other's cookbook, and it was the Bible of people growing up, and it was about this thick, and it was full of everything. It told you how to cook. It told you how to clean silver. It told you how to clean a toilet. Whatever. It was in, what was it called, Mrs. Jodie? I wonder what I would search for. Who wrote the Bible for housekeeping is what I'm thinking I would look up for, because it included it was just like how to run a house. And the one that she had looked like it would probably had been published in the late 1800s or maybe early 1900s. Not Mrs. Bean, Mrs. something or other. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Don't worry if you can't find it. I will try and hunt it down. How about this quote? I thought this was so cute, right? It's a mom saying, "I want my children to have everything that I could not afford. And then I want to move in with them." Hi there, Petra. And thank you for the Happy Mother's Day wish, and to you as well, if it's relevant. And you're from Illinois. It's really nice to see you. Thank you. How did you find us? Jeannie's saying, my mom cooked a chicken dinner every Friday. Sometimes she made chicken soup with noodles or dumplings, all right? And she made all kinds of Jewish meals, simple but so tasty. And on July the 4th, she got fresh peas. Oh, and salmon croquette. Ah, yeah. No, it wasn't Marilyn Robinson. It was an English thing. Anyway, Jody, make a note. I'll try and hunt it down and find out what it's called. But it was this thick and leather bound, and it was the Bible on anything to do with housekeeping. Just amazing. And I've got a feeling it was, a very, very old. Petra's saying she met me through Benji and Judy years ago. Wow, yeah. And I miss them so much. But the good news is, I'm looking at it now and going, isn't it amazing? We're about to welcome the next baby in the next few weeks. And it just seems like yesterday. I was, funny enough, sharing something with Jody this week. Mrs. Beaton, you're quite right. How on earth did you find that? Jody, can you make a note of that one? Because I want to look that up. Because one of the things that I really hoped that she would pass on to me was that book, just because the antique value of it. Because it must have been written, actually, if you can. I know, Jody, it's amazing what you do. Can you find out when it was originally published? Wow, that's amazing that you found it. You are such an angel. You really, I mean, you're always an angel, but that is amazing that you found that, because I actually didn't think that you would, because it's, it was so long ago. I thought this was a cute quote. Somebody said, the most remarkable thing about my mother was all the years that she served the family nothing but leftovers. The original meal has never been found. Oh, Jeannie's saying, yesterday I was gifted the unauthorized Downton Abbey cookbook. Well, that would have had probably a lot. Mrs. Beaton's book of household management was first published in 1861. That's what I said to you, right? Late 1800s or early 19. Wow, that makes me cry. Thank you, Jody. What a wonderful gift of kindness that was. So you can imagine, it was this thick leather bound, and it literally had everything in it that you could possibly want. And what I will do, if any of you are interested, I will find out some, I will see if I can research a bit more. Jody and I will do that and find some classics out of there on how to do certain things in the 1800s. But it had, how to cook pheasant, how to, it just, I don't know, it had everything. So thank you so much for that. That was a real gift. Thank you, Mrs. Beaton's. And you talked about it all the time. Like today we say, what does Google have to say about that? You'd be talking about something, you'll go, well, yeah, but what does Mrs. Beaton say about that? And you'd go and get the book. It was like an encyclopedia of household knowledge. I thought this was cute. It says, give your mother a nice bottle of wine for Mother's Day. After all, you are the reason she drinks. I don't know why. I found that really funny. All right. A mother is a person you always call to see how long you can keep chicken in the fridge. Not a live one. Excuse me. So here is my question. What can you remember when you first left home? What can you remember first phoning about? Mom, how do I fill in the blank? To me, it was, how do I cook pork? How long do I cook pork for? I don't ask me why. All right, Jody says, my mom was always drinking coffee. Now I know why. is to get through the day chasing after me. Oh, that is so funny. Jeannie saying, I now make coq au vin. Discovered I no longer need a corkscrew. Yeah. And it's lovely, isn't it? And there's a meal that we don't have very often. When did you last have coq au vin? I can't remember the last time I had that. Wow. And that's why I'm saying it'd be quite interesting to go back to the Mrs. Beaton's book and see some of the recipes. And I can tell you that, it's a bit like listening to Julia Child, the original, she was the original celebrity chef back in the day. And it's really funny, because if you think about it, the original Julia Child, everything had butter in it. I mean, I think we used about half a pound of butter on everything. It's amazing we actually survived. How about this? I got some nice quotes here. It says, Dear Mum, because of you, I am who I am today. I thank you and I love you. How many of you had the opportunity to say something like that? And if you're younger, make sure you do it, because the time will come where you are you won't have the opportunity. Oh, interesting. Jeannie's saying my mother and dad drank tea. Their favorite brand was Sweet Touch Nestle. Ah, interesting. And you buy it today. Yeah, my mother's drink was gin and tonic, and my father's was scotch. But we had tea. We were Brits. Of course we had tea. Um, Darjeeling comes to mind. Um, but it's funny, isn't it? Because I can remember every day we had tea and biscuits in the afternoon. We had afternoon tea. Do any of you relate to having afternoon tea? You had breakfast and then lunch and then afternoon tea and then dinner. Interesting. Judy's saying it was Russian and it used to come in a real tin. All tea came in a real tin. I mean, I don't know when, Jody will probably look it up for us, but I don't know when tea bags first came in. But my memory of tea was never with a tea bag. All right. When I think, and I still have loose tea. My sister, funny enough, has her own special blend. She has a tea place near her, and they actually blended a tea especially for her, and it has her name. It actually has her name, and they actually sell it, but it's called by her name because they actually whipped this thing up, because they knew she liked it, a bit of this, and she liked this tea as well. And what they did is they blended a whole lot of teas together and then called it by her name. How about that? Do you have a tea named after you? I thought that was good. I must admit, I never did. So, when I look at it, I am so grateful for the memories that I have. How many of you? Oh, really, Jody? So, commercial production of tea bags began in the 1920s. Wow, that's earlier than I thought. I would have thought it would have been much later than that. Why? No, not no. I would have. I guess not. I guess not. Yeah. But I don't think that they became popular as such until quite a bit later. I mean, now loose tea is the exception, right, Jeannie? You don't see many people who make tea. Actually, that's not true. People who still drink tea probably are more likely to have loose tea than tea bags. Interesting. So here we go back to mom again. What is the best present either your mom ever gave you or the best present you ever gave your mom in terms of memories? There you go. Um, I would have to say that the best present I received, probably not the one she thought was the best present, or maybe she did, I think was my education. I'd have to say that the one that I think about, which of all the presents I've received, I think I value my education above anything. So being shipped off, in other words, being shipped off to boarding school wasn't a bad thing for me. I was very grateful for all I learned, all I was forced to learn. The fact that I had so many friends in those days, because I grew up on a farm, I used to love going to school. Boy, there were so many people to play with and, chat with. You know, and I was thinking the other day, I used to write home. We had to have special time during the week where you had to write home. And then you get a letter back every week. Wow. I remember those days pretty well. What about you? I think, it's funny because you sort of go through these memories and um, I don't know, it's great at least once a year to remember them, all right? Jody's saying my mom taught me a love of cooking. She always encouraged me to be in the kitchen with her, and her patience was endless. Yes, I can remember. Yeah, Jody, now that you mention it, there is one thing that you've all probably noticed, and I got it from my mom. My mom was really good at meal presentation, right? Um, every radish was cut into a flower, those sort of things. Interesting. Thank you for reminding me of that. And that stayed with me, that always the meal looked really interesting. And, I find that, yeah, Jody's saying, I always said that you were a food artist. Yes, and I'm not good at it. But, there's part of me that would have loved to have studied that a bit more. I wouldn't have the patience to do it properly, but my version of it, I can feel, like when we were plating up those little apple pie tacos that we made on Friday. Instinctively, I knew it needed a little bit of icing sugar on it and some caramel. It was just to have them as they were was not enough. Jeannie's saying my mom and dad took my took me to my cousin's dress shop in Massachusetts, easy for me to say, where they bought me several dresses for debates in the high school competition. Wow, how about that? Interesting. Jeannie says my mom would not allow her to cook with her. I started cooking at 19 when I moved out. Yeah, I can remember being allowed to do certain things. I think I was allowed to try and whip up cream, which I wasn't very good at, but I was allowed to do that. Can't remember being allowed to handle knives. You probably are not surprised. Um, but I definitely remember, the presentation thing. You know, Sal, can you put a little sprig of mint on there or whatever? That I guess I must have been allowed to do that. Yeah. But I can't remember sweating over a hot stove too much. Yeah, I really don't blame her. Uh, but I'm very glad that she, taught me that. Because, imagine if I hadn't learned that. I think I'm a better person for that. And I think it's something that I noticed with Benji, funnily enough, that, he is a food artist, right? He doesn't cook food, he presents food. And Jeannie said, my mom said, when I die, the kitchen is yours. Much later, she loved my cooking. Oh, isn't that lovely? Yeah, but I'm really sad that she didn't let you share in that experience, because when I look at children, being allowed in the kitchen, and, I watch the girls all make smoothies and things with Benji, they love it. They totally love it. And how many of you have memories of baking cookies? All right. I mean, what was, most children, their best memory of the kitchen was baking cookies with their mom from scratch. Well, probably not the younger ones today, but yeah, it made me sad, as you can tell, right? Um, but Jenny, I'm so grateful that you have, had such joy in cooking since then. And I say that because I know from all that you tell us that, you're forever cooking for other people and doing all of that. So some people would have ended up with a loathing for cooking. So I'm really happy that you've got that experience. What is your memory of your mother and boyfriends? Jenny's saying another woman helped me enjoy baking. If I made mistakes, I was not belittled. Yes. It's all, which is why I think, Jenny, it's the reason why when I cook, I try not to measure stuff. I want people to see that cooking isn't about exact measurements. Baking is, I know that. But when I'm cooking, in fact, the one day that I tried to measure, I totally messed up what I was doing. It was just like, no, I know what it needs to feel like. I know what it needs to look like, but I don't measure. Yeah, Jody's saying it's apparent that Jeannie takes great care in her food presentation. She describes the dishes so beautifully. Yes, that's very true, right? That it's, she does, doesn't she? And I thank you for that. I never know how to pronounce this lady's name, and you guys will know. She's the lady that's married to, I can see him, pianist, singer, John Legend. Yeah, there you go. Chrissy. Is it Tegan? I think it's pronounced Tegan. I'm not sure. Hi there, ordinary girl. Hi everyone. Just popped in here to listen for a while. I make dinner. Happy Mother's Day. Well, Julie, thank you so much, and to you as well. Yeah, listen to what Chrissy Teigen said about having babies. She said, "Nobody told me I'd be coming home in diapers as well." And this one is from Serena Williams. And when you hear this, I don't know, this touched my soul at a very deep level. She said, I've conquered a lot of things. Clots in my lungs twice, knee and foot surgeries, winning Grand Slams, being down by a match point, to name just a few. But I found out by far the hardest is figuring out a stroller. And bless Serena Williams for that, all right? And I'm certain those of you that have fought the stroller, totally get it. And Reese Witherspoon said, I always say, if you aren't yelling at your kids, you're not spending enough time with them. And And I'm not sure who said this, but it's thank you for not telling my sisters that I was your favorite. And it's so difficult, isn't it? Because we imagine favoritism, but I'm pretty certain that you all agree that we were all the favorites for whatever. I mean, I know that my sister was the favorite for certain reasons, and I would have been the favorite some days because of other reasons. I was always very entertaining. you know, but it's funny, isn't it, when you think about it? So, and how many of you can remember your mom being your greatest confidant, if you like? Now, funny enough, for me, that wasn't true. It's interesting, isn't it? I found the person I could really tell my troubles to was my aunt. She was a teacher, very logical. And so, you know, and she didn't do guilt trips or belittle me, I guess. So that comment was interesting to me, Jody, when you mentioned, or whoever said that. Was it Jeannie who mentioned being belittled? My aunt was actually very pragmatic about stuff. And, I could go to her and say, hey, look, this is going on, da, 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 da. And she would talk to me like an adult. And quite often would tell me my mother was, had screws loose in her head, or something. She was very kind to me in those terms. And when I was going insane with my mother, I used to run to her, and yeah, she lived quite a way away, so it was quite a long way to go. But she always totally understood. I guess she must have driven my aunt equally mad, I think. All right, so Jeannie's saying I was the first names after my mother's mother. Jeannie, my aunt doted on. My aunts. I was the first names after my mother's mother, Jeannie. Okay. I was first named after my mother's mother. Wow, that's interesting. And your aunts doted on you because of that. Ah, isn't that nice? Yeah. I actually didn't end up with the names that my mother intended. Apparently. I hear stories that my mom sent my father off to register me, and he changed one of my names. And I'm glad he did, because the name that he added was Tanya, like in the Russian, not Tanya, but Tanya, as in the Russian. And I've always loved having that as part of my name. I've always felt that was especially after I watched, Dr. Zhivago and stuff like that. I was always very grateful for having that as part of my name. You can imagine my mom sent him off to go register me under this set of names. I have 3 names. How many of you got more than one name? And Jody said I was named after a thoroughbred racehorse, Jody Hanover. I can't believe I'm admitting that. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. I'm not quite sure why the name mess up happened with me, but it did. And how many of you have one name, Christian name? How many of you had 2 Christian names? How many of you have 3 Christian names, or more? And I'm pretty certain you all know when you watch a royal wedding, it takes 10 minutes for them to get all the names out. And if you remember Princess Diana trying to remember all of Charles's, she got it wrong. And nobody really seemed to care. But yeah, I was blessed with 3 names and my surname, and quite a few. So as we look at this Mother's Day, I want us to just take a deep breath and remember. To me, Mother's Day is always a little sad because it's the day that my father died. But I try to remember the good. And I have a lot of good memories. And I have a lot of things for which I'm very thankful for, as you heard. Um, and my mom's been gone a long, long time now. And it was funny because this morning I got a call from Dougie, who, bless his heart, is so good. And he was apologizing that he phoned Friday to apologize for the fact that he wouldn't be able to see me on Mother's Day. It tells you that I was in his thoughts. And then he phoned me again today to wish me happy Mother's Day. And he was busy telling me that he's going to take me out for a steak and da 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 da. And I said to him, please don't. Let's pick up a steak and let's bring it back. Pick one up on the way here whenever you come, and get the best you can. And let's have it here. With a bottle of wine or whatever, and the reason is because I love it when I can just, have him sit on the other side here and we can just talk, right? And I don't know about you guys, but that to me is really nice to do. How about, I like this quote, and it said, silence is golden unless you have kids. And then silence is just suspicious. I can remember that. Why the kids are quiet, you know. Anybody have memories of that? I certainly do. Yeah. Why are they so quiet? They must be up to something. Yeah, it will be a nice visit. Now, it's quite a joke because I said to Dougie, you do realize you owe me 2 visits, not 1. And he said, what? And I said, well, we made a Christmas agreement that you would visit me once every season as a minimum. And he said, yeah. And I said, well, winter's gone and we're now into spring. And he said, wow, you're right. I said, and I saw you before Christmas. So, that's... and he just said, that is amazing. I said, uh-huh. Now, that was a guilt trip, wasn't it? All right, so Jeannie's saying my stepdaughter just phoned me to wish me a good day. Isn't that kind? Yeah, I was just delighted to get the call from Doug, I must say. That's really nice. It's nice that people... I got wished Happy Mother's Day from all sorts of wonderful people. I got first one. Oh, by the way, I wanted to just mention, you've heard me talk about that young Spanish tennis player who just turned 19 now. Last time I talked to you about him, he was ranked number 11 already in 4 years. He went from number 1,200 and something to number 11. He is now number 6 in the world. He's winning everything. Just amazing. He's just beating all the top players, left, right, and center. Can you imagine that at 19? And then I'm thinking about Boris Becker going to jail. It's just like sad. And so I often wonder, because I never could have children, I often wonder how my life would have been different if I had had them. But I don't dwell on that because I think I am who I am because I didn't have them, if you know what I mean. I've been so well accepted by young people because I don't talk like a mother. Well, yeah, sometimes, but you know what I mean? It's just like, I think they could relate to me because I don't sound like a mother to them. And so there's something to be said for that. So when you look at your life and realize that we all got here via a mother, it's pretty important. When I look at all the changes that are about to happen, I think in the next few years, I am also glad that I have lived the life I have. And I look at it and go, this is a really interesting time. Well, may you live in interesting times is a is a very well-known proverb, but actually it's a curse. May you live in interesting time. Can you imagine? And let's take, before we go, let us just take a moment to imagine all the mothers who had to flee Ukraine with, just what they could carry. And all those mothers who also carried a pet. I don't know about the rest of you, but that touched my soul. How many Ukrainians took their pets out with them? And I look at that and go, that is really quite something. And you think of all the people who have tried to protect their children and and then got bombed, even though they were in a school or in a hospital or whatever. And I think if we can this Mother's Day, let us give an extra prayer for the mothers. Yes, Jeannie's saying we prayed for the Ukrainian mothers today as well. Yeah, and let us pray that it doesn't get worse. I also think we should pray for the Russian mothers whose sons are never coming home. And I believe that it's possible that they will suddenly up and have conscription and force more and more young men to join the army and become cannon fodder, which is really sad, but I think it's going to happen. And so for all those mothers, anywhere where there is conflict, let us take a moment to think of them and let them know that we sort of understand what they're going through. And so as you sort of go through the rest of the day, give thanks that you're not under the stress that those others are. As you go through the rest of the day, think about trying to bring up children without any medication, to bring up children without clothes, without a washing machine, without, I was reading somewhere about the mothers in Maripolo or whatever it was called. You know what I mean? The southern city that they are in the steel plant, where they're literally feeding their children warm water. All right, thanks, Jeannie. Were, and I believe that they got all the mothers and children out, but it's just like you think about how difficult it is to be a mother, and now imagine doing it without anything. So Jody's saying this was magical. Thank you so very much. I had tears of joy and heartache missing my mom. The memories are priceless. Yes, be grateful for the memories. So many people don't have them. So many people, you look at it and go, however much your mom might have been driving you insane, you were lucky to have one. In fact, you wouldn't be here without one. And I look at it and go, it's been a really interesting time. And as I go through my life, even though I was never a mother, I was a mother and have been a mother to so many over the years and I'm very grateful that they chose me. I take it a great compliment. And I sometimes say to them, of all the mothers you could have had, why did you pick me as your second mother? It's like, oh, you were so much fun, Sal. And so wise. And I'd go, well, it's nice to know that they think that. And so remember to ask your children, right, what they valued about you as a mother. And then tell them what you valued about them as a child. There's a quote here that says, I open my mouth and my mother comes out. And you definitely remember so many of those moments, some of which I desperately didn't want to have happen. So have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, wherever you are, or Monday, if you happen to be where Lauren is in Tasmania, know that I love you dearly, and I'm so happy to have been here with you today. And we'll see you again on Friday, God willing. And let's hope that we all make it through to there. This is Dear Mama Sal saying thank you, Jody, for looking after us as you do, and the wonderful research on Mrs. Beaton. I really want to tell you that if you did one really good deed for the day, that was it. It was just amazing for me that you found that. And it, when you said the name, I went, how did I not remember Mrs. Beaton? So no, you did really well, and I still got tears in my eyes. You see, this is Dear Mama Sal, and Jeannie. Thank you for always being there to support us as well as backup. I really appreciate that. This is Dear Mama Sal saying, have a wonderful week, and try not to let the stress get you down. Um, it's going to be a bit of a stressful week for me because I'm still not 100% sure whether my brother's going to arrive on my doorstep or not. And for those of you who know that story, you can understand why I'm sort of breathing in a bit. Just to let you know, I am going to probably have to go to the doctor because this cough that I've got is getting worse, and it's choking me more. Okay, it was sort of once or twice a day, and now I'm doing a lot more. So just to let you know that if for any reason this continues to get any worse, I might not be able to broadcast. And I'm hoping that's not true, but just to give you a heads up, here I go. I didn't put that on. This is Dear Mama Sal saying, thank you. Love you dearly. Bye-bye for now.